Thank you, Creepy Siri Robot. I appreciate your introduction, but my introduction's better because it's less robotic. What's up, everybody? This is episode number 3 of Wheels and Wells. I'm your boy, Dave Squeaky Wheels here. We got my other guy right here, Cam Wells, my esteemed co-host. Say hi to people, Cam.
Stupid terms, my parole.
Trust me, you wouldn't be able to hold the chain gang. They would be pulling you. You know what I'm saying?
Jeez, man.
on.
The less I know about your extracurricular activities, the happier we're all going to be.
It's the only way to keep the straitjacket on. Anyways, today on the show, we have a very esteemed guest. I've known this guy ever since I was a little boy. We went to same elementary school and same high school together. He's a fantastic drummer throughout the Windsor scene, and he's traveled a bit too. I want you all guys to welcome my boy, Mr. Danny Barker, everybody. Say hi, Danny.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Well,
I know, as he does his spreadsheets on the side over there, or whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah. No, I'll just closing everything off so there's no interference. So
No worries.
well, I wanted to see the spreadsheets. Those look like fun.
I could spread. I don't know if there's a sheet, but I could spread for you.
I'd say good to know, but that's TMI.
As long as there's no equal. Sorry, go ahead.
What's the rating on this thing?
Edited later.
Okay.
I know,
Okay.
right? Yeah,
I'll keep it PG-13 here. So
no. It's going up on my YouTube. My YouTube's pretty dirty, so you're good to go, man. You can say what you want as long as it's within reason. We no shame in our game here on Wheels and Wells. Even though Cam is a little ashamed of me because I can't stop with my debauchery.
hell yeah, it's a good
Honest or diplomatic, not both.
yeah, indeed.
So yeah, on today's episode, I think we didn't preview this in the beginning, but I'll do a little preview. We're going to talk a little bit about the school systems and how they curtail their ways of learning to people with disabilities, because I don't think a lot of people are aware, but up until recently, which is basically the 80s, you were basically excluded from regular schooling, or the contemporary general type of schooling that most kids experience. Like you either had to do homeschooling or there was like different institutional things and other things like that. But we'll get to that first. Danny, let's talk about your journey as a musician. So I've known you ever since I can remember. So much shit talking on the short bus and on the buses alike. Yeah, like let us know, like, what age were you when you started messing around with the drums, and what drew you to that?
Well, as far as I can remember, I probably started playing when I was about 3 or 4, because my dad, he was kind of a closet musician, rock star guy. He kind of still is. So I had a lot of gear, and I think obviously made sense to like sit down. So the drums were perfect for that. And yeah, I could keep a beat. I was, pretty bad, but I could kind of count to 4 at a pretty young age. So did that for a few years and then kind of fell off and started dancing around like a Backstreet Boy for a little bit. But eventually things come around, and playing drums is pretty much what I do. So here I am. It's been a long time, 30 years, over 30 years.
Do you find there's enough disability-themed music out there? I mean, I've done a fair bit of research into this, and most of what I've run across is either really vintage or just geared towards a very specialized group.
Yeah. If you're asking me about do you mean like artists that are disabled, like that are producing music?
No, I mean songs and content on the topic of disability.
Oh, you know what? I've never. By the way, I like your Sabin little thing there. I got to say, the Final Fantasy VI.
Oh, thanks.
It's really good.
Just notice.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Anyway, off topic, but yeah, I don't know, honestly. Certainly I've seen a lot of like incredible disabled musicians, disabled drummers that are far more challenged than I am, and even far better than myself, even under the circumstances. A lot of disabled musicians, but not as far as context. Have you found any? I know you said you're looking there, but
very little. There are some
Yeah.
songs about mental health, mostly from artists like Genesis. You got
I
songs
love
like
Genesis. Genesis is maybe like top 5 bands for me. Like amazing, 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 amazing. Yeah.
you
Anyway,
got Home by the Sea, Your Own Special Way, that sort of thing. But
yeah.
not a heck of a lot. But they're offshoots, like Peter Gabriel redid My Body is a Cage by Arcade Fire, and well, that's sort of on point. But
Wow. I didn't know that. That's incredible. I love Genesis, especially the early stuff with Peter Gabriel. Is just incredible. I love old prog and stuff. So that's cool, man.
very nice. I'm a collector of lost rock and roll myself.
Awesome, bro. Awesome. Yeah, so much good stuff, especially that like early 70s prog, and like music was far more advanced than what a lot of people were hearing. Like you just got to dig deep, right? It's like anything.
I mean, actually, the singer for Asia, John Wetton, the late
Yeah.
John Wetton, he did a song in his solo career called Eyesight to the Blind, which was also one of the few songs I've run across that's actually on point.
Yeah. Wow.
About how attractive his girlfriend is, but the reference is there.
Okay. Hell yeah. Yeah, he's a great bass player, honestly. And great vocalist too, right? Obviously, King Crimson and stuff like that. Cool, man.
Yeah, no,
Rock and roll.
I've known you. You've always had like a repertoire and just a catalog of music and musicians that you can just kind of pull up whenever, man. Like, do you like it? Because this kind of relates to our topic. Were you ever bored in school because you'd rather just because I'm kind of musical myself, not into the sense that you are, but like
Yeah.
there's
Oops, don't count. I keep telling you.
what does it count?
Okay.
You fucking asshole. Well, like, my point being was like, did you ever find yourself like air drumming or just like kind of drumming on the desk or shit like that? Because I find like that's kind of a way that kids can learn a bit easier if you kind of attach a song to it or like make it more rhythmic, you know?
Yeah. I mean, of course, from a drumming perspective, I think we're all tapping on things, even if we're not drummers, right? People are tapping their foot on the ground and stuff like that. Because there's I don't know, it's a pulse, right? And I don't know.
It's funny you mentioned about the kids' songs there. They've only got like 5 different beats you can potentially have for one of those.
Yeah, that's where the money is. What I've been doing all these years, I should have joined Bebo or something like that, or wherever those clowns were back then, making all the money.
You ever hear the story of AC/DC? Guy says, you have 10 albums and they all sound alike. What's your secret? Guy says, you're entirely wrong. We have 11 albums and they all sound alike.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, but you know what? That I just to go on that with regard to the AC/DC, like that it's such fundamental stuff. It was certainly not something I was into for a really long time because I want to play fast and like more crazy stuff and just hit the drums as hard as possible. But a friend of my dad's, he really introduced me to the AC/DC stuff probably when I was about 17, 18 years old. And then I started to appreciate it. Like all it is, man, is just like counting to 4 or counting to 3, like especially when you're playing a show and you can't really hear nothing because the sound is so loud. Like as long as you have that timing internalized in your ear, then most of the time you're going to be good to go. So that's good stuff. It, like AC/DC might get a lot of hate, but like it's fundamental rock and roll. So
Well, if you like one of their songs, you like most of them.
yeah, it's 100% true. Yeah.
Exactly.
I
I always kind of felt like I had like Angus's legs a little bit, like like when he's playing the bass, my legs are kind of. I had like bow-legged legs when I was a kid, so when he's tapping like that, I always fucking vibed off of
Because
that.
he's TNT. He's dynamite.
100%. Yeah. The stanky leg.
The
The
stanky leg.
stanky leg.
But that's a different type of leg. We won't get into that. That's a whole different podcast. With that's my porn star podcast.
What could I be on that?
Yeah. I'll, well, we'll see. We'll see what I could do for you, man.
We'll talk about it. Yeah.
But yeah, like
Okay, I believe we were discussing something that wasn't that.
Yeah, with something else. Yeah.
hey, it's all related, you guys. It's all related. So like when you were first learning how to play drums, like what was the most challenging aspect for you. You know what I'm saying? Because like you had, correct me if I'm wrong, you had casts on your legs when you were a kid, right? Like you had kind of a, you did splinting like similar to mine, but it's a little bit different.
I did. I wore braces since I started to walk, which was around when I was 6. And I pretty much wore them until the end of grade school because I found honestly they seem to be doing more harm than good for me. Like you probably feel that, right? The rubbing and the tension and stuff when you wear them, right? So, but I did wear them for a while, and then as far as the difficulty with drumming, it was more so, though obviously the foot pedal was the obvious thing, right? And when I was younger, we try to do things like put blocks on it or whatever so I could reach it better and things of that nature. But eventually, once I, got into a band, like an actual band when I was, in high school, I was probably 16 or 17, my first band. I just at that point I was kind of able to play drums like pretty decently, and the evolution of that, like just getting my timing down and stuff was more so, you just do it, man. You do it, and then eventually something happens, and like the limitation that's in your brain somehow gets overcome. And like I remember, the song "We're Not Gonna Take It" by Twisted Sister, right?
Yeah.
I remember a real big turning point for me was like, I'm not even a big Twisted Sister fan. Like I appreciate it, not really my thing, but I remember I was sitting downstairs, I was playing on my electric kit, and there was a certain place in a beat where my foot just wouldn't go. Like I just couldn't get it, like anatomically. And then one time I was just sitting down there and I just figured it out. Like it just, the muscles kind of started to go. And then once that happened, drumming since then has kind of just been, I don't know, like 80% mental and like 20% physical, because you get enough of the fundamentals down that, like, when you're playing the best, like any instrument, you probably notice this when you're doing your improv and stuff like that, right? The best stuff comes when you're not thinking at all, or at least very, very little. And the mistakes, they come when you aren't thinking, right? So it gets to a point where you get good enough that you can kind of figure yourself out. And that's how I overcome most of my challenges now. It's just over time, you just do it and you have confidence. And that's pretty much it.
That's the thing, though. Where the mind leads, the body will inevitably follow.
Pretty much. Yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, no, just kind of have a jumping off point with that. Like you said, when you're, it's different with music because you have like set songs and everything. When you're like telling jokes, you have, like, even if it's like a set piece that you have, I don't know, I like to play around with it a lot on stage. So even if I have the punchline completely the same, I like to throw in something different or a completely different angle that I never thought of. And like what I did on Monday was I switched it up a bit. The video's on my Facebook, but I did half the set with just prepared jokes and one-liners that I thought of that week. And then the other half I did suggestions from the audience. And I'm like, let me just see if I can work this muscle, because I've done the improv games a few times with Toastmasters and things like that. But I'm like, ironically, let me see how good I am on my feet, just to kind of see how it all works out. And it was, that didn't deserve anything. I deserve to be shot and hung. But
Sure.
the delay sometimes.
Get a better response.
Yeah, but yeah, anyways, like I think that when you have a skill like that, too, getting back to the theme of the show, I think people see the disability as secondary. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't know if the conventional school system is necessarily set up for people who want to think outside the box, or who like want to look at life or have to deal with life a certain way. It's a very much a dry, rinse, repeat assembly line type of way of thinking, and it's been like that for, I think, since like the turn of the century. They just had this assembly line mentality.
Yeah, I agree. I think across the board, definitely, like And you know what, speaking like from the disability standpoint, like I remember, I was, they put me in like special ed classes and stuff like that, like even when I was in high school, right? And I mean, thank God I was excluded from French. I mean, that worked out okay. And I didn't have to do gym and stuff like that. But looking back at it, I don't think I had a learning disability. I think, there was just like, life and stuff, things you're dealing with outside of school. And then also just, there's there's not enough individualization or specialization, like treatment towards the individual to figure out obviously like what the individual really wants to do. And I mean, I just didn't give a shit about math. I didn't give a shit about about geography and stuff like that. Like I liked writing, I liked entrepreneurship, so I got good grades in business. And I think probably everybody deals with that to a degree. And I mean, when you're disabled, right, like you can kind of be pigeonholed and put into those type of situations. And it really comes down to the school system in general, like not doing enough to like understand the individual not needs, but wants and desires of people to create the best versions of themselves. And that's a whole thing, like how do you do that on a mass scale? Like sure, there's difficulties, but I mean, I think we got to work towards it somehow. And we're definitely not, we're not there right now. I will say that for sure.
Yes.
We weren't 20 years ago. So something's got to change with that. But anyway.
What's interesting about that is sometimes you'll get it slanted too far the other way. Say someone's shown a particular talent for art, and teacher might look and say, "Oh, it's great that you can do that despite your disability." Or
Yeah.
because of that, they'll say it's a great piece just to placate the person rather than looking at it with the critical eye that you would any piece of art.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a human thing, right? That's a very deep kind of layer because I think as fucked up as the school system is, and and the lack of individualization, like teachers are humans. They're humans just like our parents, right? Like we often look at our parents and like see how they deal with things, and like when you're younger, you look at them as like superheroes and stuff. But as for myself, like as I get older, I start to realize that all people are just people. Your parents are people, like teachers are people. I work in a call center. The people you talk to are people, right? They're flawed individuals. And I think there needs to be a push towards like people like, I don't know, like just being more understanding in general, like, towards, again, showing people, like pointing people in the direction that they want to go, but then also being, judging things equally, like, as a drummer, and probably you, Dave, like as a comedian, like you obviously want to be seen as yourself, right? As a comedian, right? You want to be seen for the skills that you're putting, and you want to be, you want to be judged amongst all peers, right? And that was, as a drummer, at first that was looming in my mind, like I have this disability and all that sort of stuff. Like, are people judging me fairly? And eventually I kind of got over that and like just realized that I believe that I can be as good as I want to be. And I know, because I've gotten better and better and better, and I get better every day. And it just comes down to that. People need to learn how to understand people more. I guess that's the long end of my ramble there. But
no, it was actually a very concise ramble. Some ramblings kind of go nowhere, but they have a point to it. I can hear everything that you're saying. I think the issue is that you're dealing with so many kids, and there's one person there, and maybe they're not as motivated or compensated. In certain countries and districts, they're not as compensated enough to do a good job. So to me, there has to be an incentive to do a good job. I think, like from when we went to school, we had the learning support teacher, the LST teacher for the layman. Yeah. And what they would do, just to give a glimpse, so that people understand what we're talking about, whereas like you guys would do testing where you go and you just take the test with everybody else, and you'd have 2 hours, and 2 hours is all you get, or an hour and a half is all you get. And if you don't finish it in time, tough titty. And the LST teacher, they would kind of customize things more to your needs. So if you needed extra time, if like in my instance, my hand would get tired if I was to write freehand and not type, somebody else would scribe for you, or like there would be people who were deaf, they needed assistance, other things like other learning disabilities, they would give you assistance there. So I think it's
Yeah.
a good thing, but even that teacher I could tell was overwhelmed sometimes, and like there wasn't enough resources, in my humble opinion, to kind of help out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
Okay.
What I think about that is it's fine to give a level playing field, to provide accommodations as needed, but you ain't doing anyone any favors if you tell them everything they do is great and takes the meaning out of the work itself.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's definitely a slippery slope, right? And yeah, I mean, it comes from a lack of understanding, and like I say, like I see these drummers online that are playing these like crazy songs. Like there's this one dude. I don't know if you've seen it there, Cam, but there's this one dude, and he's got no arms, and he's playing Everlong by the Foo Fighters, which is a hard song to play on drums. I used to tell myself, like, once I learn how to play that song, I'm gonna quit playing drums because that's how daunting it seemed to me. Then I learned how to play it. But this guy's playing it with no arms, and he's playing it powerful. And you know what? That guy, he had to rise above it, and he probably had to deal with a lot of the same stuff of people either telling him like, oh yeah, when he wasn't good, like, oh, it's good. And he had to just be like, well, it doesn't matter about that. Like, this is how I want to be, right? And like that's the only way you can get that good at anything. Because you have to be as good as you want.
Sorry to cut you off, Cam, but I think I almost have a term for this. I think when people, when they not just somebody with a disability or anybody with an impairment, do you think they indirectly underestimate them? That's what I'm thinking. They indirectly condescend, or they indirectly underestimate. Because even if you're saying, even if it's a compliment, I find it's like, would you say that again? Would you say it to somebody who isn't, or somebody who is? And like they may have the best intentions, but I think you can kind of see through that if you've always been dealt with this. Everybody handles things differently, but yeah, it's indirectly condescending, or indirectly whatever.
Reverse discrimination.
Reverse
Yeah.
discrimination, that's the term.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a slippery slope, man. Like again, it's the everyday battle of like just trying to like figure yourself out, and I don't know what the word is, like integrate the best version of yourself and help society, grow and be strong and have belief and you know, I jammed with I went and I jammed with my dad and like some older guys or whatever for a birthday thing a few days ago. And so there's a bunch of people that I didn't know there, right? Older gentlemen and whatever. And I showed up there to play, and because it's my dad's birthday. And there was this one guy that just picked up the guitar, and like he just couldn't, like, he was just playing stuff, and then he would just like switch like out of nowhere. Like, we couldn't make a song, we couldn't make a groove. And eventually I was like, fucking like play a riff, man. Like, I'm sitting here like, what am I doing, right? And probably nobody told that guy, like, bro, like, I don't know what you think you're doing back there, but this is music is a team thing or whatever. Like, we got to get together on this. And probably nobody told them. And I've seen that too. And you know what? The times where I've grown the most, especially from in music and professional settings and stuff, is when people told me, like, look, like, you got to get good. It's like what people say, right? And as hard as it is in the moment, it's the best advice that you can often get, as long as you're being told by somebody that can actually back it up, right?
People thrive on challenges,
Yeah.
I had a professor once who told me the test I had to do was physically impossible for someone in my situation. So
Yeah.
I went out and I did it. And at the time, I really didn't like her. I didn't like her attitude at all. in retrospect, the fact that she had defied me to actually do it is one of the best things ever. And with time, we got to know each other pretty well, and I have a great respect for her now because she actually pushed me to redefine my own limit.
What did she? So when you did it, curious, like when you did it, what did she say? Was she surprised, or was she just trying to, or was she actually trying to like fucking like psych you out or whatever?
I think she was just trying to essentially jumpstart my motivation. I mean, I was at one point I was that guy who thought, yeah, I can do all the work and kind of coast through, but people really need that challenging factor. They need someone to say, yeah, you're great today, but can you be greater tomorrow?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's these are big macro problems or whatever, as they say, right? Big problems, not micro problems, but it all comes down to the like belief in the self is the core thing. And yeah, I mean, when I have to play a show, for example, right? And like no matter how much practice I've had, if I haven't practiced or whatever, we have to do it. If the setting is poor, the sound is bad, like, and you know it right away. Like the worst thing you can do is start to get in your head about it. And like in those moments, I just try to relax and I tell myself, like, I've done this before, like, I know I can do it. And there's something crazy about that. Like when you really just like settle in and you're like, I know I can do this. And then you just do it. And then whatever happens, happens. Right. And usually it turns out pretty good. So, yeah. Anyway.
In fact, your musical journey kind of reminds me of a friend of mine I've had on my own show. Guy who used music therapy to recover from something pretty extraordinary. He actually was shot at the age of 5, and he witnessed several family members being murdered. And
Man, is he Batman? Is this guy fucking Batman?
I know, right? Holy shit.
more or less, he was told he would never walk again. He'd never be able to do most of the things people expect of life. But he turned to music, and it healed his mind to the point at which now he's up and he's walking, even able to drive if he his mind to it.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Human mind is so powerful. It really is. It really is.
it really is, gentlemen. Yeah, no, let me see. Actually, let me read you some stuff. So this is the 1980s.
When did you learn to read?
It's hieroglyphics. Okay, don't get carried away. You fuck.
I feel you, Daniel.
Sorry, I just needed to do it.
Yeah.
He can't help himself.
Can't read my own name sometimes on there. You know what I'm saying? For real, you know.
Is that like the self-destruct code we're looking at here?
I wrote it all on my hand in pen. I'm sweating all of it off now.
Yeah.
Mark Murphy, you are elf, uncontrollable. I think.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
So yeah, in 1950 we had the Hope Report because it made the following recommendations: compulsory school attendance from 6 to 16, abolition of grade 13, and a significant expansion of special education programs to serve children with learning disabilities. The report had little immediate impact on education policy because it took something like 50 years for the recommendations to be implemented. And then in 1980, December 12, an act to amend the Education Act, often referred to as Bill 82, came into effect in Ontario. It says it's a worldwide move towards providing all children with the opportunity for publicly funded education, regardless of disabilities. And this thing too, this is from Orillia, Ontario. I think they said they said in 1876, Ontario opened its first institution for people with developmental disabilities in the outskirts of Orillia. It was named the Orillia Asylum for Idiots. Later, it was called the Ontario Hospital School. First of all, great band name, the Asylum for Idiots. Dan, I think they could.
Yeah.
Don't encourage the underground scene.
Very punk rock. RAWK.
I know that was my reading out loud that I fucking sped through. Sorry if people didn't catch all that, but I think it's fascinating to see like, yeah, because people want to bitch and moan. I talked about this on my last podcast too, where we should be so lucky that we live in a place where we can bitch and moan about atrocities that have happened before and like openly criticize it. And there's literally countries in the world where you can't do that. But just to think, not that long ago, we were taking people like people who had intellectual disabilities, physical disabilities, whatever, and just lumping us all together. And like we just are dealing with the remnants of that, the echoes of that, and the fact we progressed so much. I don't think we give ourselves society enough credit.
Well, these days, it's a lot easier to put a human face on disability, I think. I mean, in the past, there wasn't social media, there weren't things like this podcast, and you could just see like a one-off example. You couldn't actually go online and listen to somebody's human story. The
Yeah.
thing is, they keep expanding the definition in terms of education because we keep gaining a better understanding that a disability is not necessarily hereditary. It's not necessarily a catch-all to not having a life. I mean,
Yeah.
I have a relative who was actually forcibly sterilized and institutionalized about 80 years ago. And, well, thing is, these days, that would be considered downright criminal. I interviewed her half sister, who's one of my close relatives, for the course I did on disabilities for Canterbury that I designed. But thing is, we just we have all these examples. We have people sharing their stories. In the States, the sub minimum wage law remains. And a person with Down syndrome actually came out and said, "This is dehumanizing. We deserve better as a people."
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things I don't know. Like, there's obviously some weird stuff still going on, and like, and it really is there. It's always a tough thing, right? Because like you look at these things and you're like, yes, everybody, everybody should obviously be judged equally. Everybody should be paid like the same amount for the job that they're doing, whether they're disabled, whether they're gender, whether their ethnicity, like anything like that. And it's crazy that stuff, that there's still things like that still exist. Human beings are they're so complicated, and it's really hard to deal with certain things. Every day is a journey, to just try and figure out like our place in society, and again how we can make it grow, and like how we can teach people, and hopefully see that change. But it's crazy. We just got to do a little bit every day, I guess, right? And just be understanding. It's crazy.
Why should our place in society be any different than anyone else's?
Yeah. No, I mean, like, everybody has the right to be who they want to be, right? And these are complicated things. I don't even know where to go. I don't even know where to go with it. It's such a deep topic, right?
Really is. We get deep on this show. We like to kind of the reason why I wanted to start this is because I've known Cam and I've known obviously you for a long time, but I wanted to give people a glimpse into the everyday shit. So we speak from personal experience, but like I wanted to just give a little bit of history for people, just to kind of put you in perspective, because especially now things are so, despite this past year and a half, things have been going pretty swimmingly, I think. And I think we need perspective. We got like an hour, we got a minute and 20 left on the recording, because Zoom is being tensy about or rather litigious about our time. So we could do our plugs right now, or what I could do is I could stop the meeting and we can attempt to start another one and just keep going. What do you gentlemen think?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank Dave's comments in regards to the chintziness of Zoom do not in any way reflect the network or any participant in this podcast.
Yeah.
All right, let me stop the meeting quick, and then I'll get this video up, and then we'll figure it out. Okay, give me 1 sec, gentlemen.
Yeah.
All right.
It was just for legal purposes.
Yeah.
Trying to cover
I
your
also,
butt.
I also love it so much.
He had to put on his law hat. We'll edit that out. It's okay. Give me 1 second.
Really
All right, hang
hope
on.
jokes.
We're back. We're back. We're back, you guys. Yeah, we're back. That's all you need to know. I don't know.
Yeah, Dave busted the recording.
Yeah, we found out that I have the stomach of a pregnant lady. So I think that was news to all of us. And I said abruptly I should probably stop drinking, but I'm probably not going to. So what are you gonna do?
The shock is overwhelming.
So overwhelming. I forgot what we were talking about. There was like a bit of a gap in there.
Schools and the placating of people with disabilities.
Yes.
The idea that everything they do is regarded as great, regardless of talent, and the fact that we need to veer away from that in society.
Yeah. It's yeah, I mean that the saying the right thing when it feels wrong is I don't know, it's such a human trait, right? That we've been blessed with in our 30 or whatever years, and through evolution and stuff. There's definitely things about how we interact with each other that are not for the betterment of people. I don't know if you want to call it the yin and the yang of things. Like there can be no
I know those
perfect
brothers. I know those two guys, Yin and Yang.
yin and yang.
They're good dudes.
Yeah.
Give me discounts at their store.
I appreciate them, like they do their thing.
I don't know if this is just I don't know if this is just a dumb high thought, Danny, but from that angle, you look like Ziggy Marley half melted.
Yeah, that's what I'm going for. That and Jesus.
Oh,
So,
good.
Obviously.
Getting back to a more serious point, when it comes to saying the right thing, you're not encouraging growth. You're not actually saying to a person with a disability, I believe you have the seed of potential and you can take it to the next level. You're just saying, it's great, stop where you are, and well, that's all you will ever do or be and will expect from life. It's really shortchanging.
Yeah. You know what I think? I think it's honestly a reflection of the individual that is imparting that message, like, because they're probably looking at it from their perspective and saying, thinking like, oh, this must be such a horrible thing. Like if they were in that situation that person of disability or otherwise is in, they would think, man, like this is so awful. All I would want is for someone to be positive to me, or they just can't see the positive in the situation in general. So they're just like, I don't want to make this any worse than it already looks.
Well, disability isn't inherently a curse.
Yeah.
It's more a matter of thinking creatively. It's a tool like anything else. If you use it one way, it can really be an advantage. If you use it the other way, yeah, it can be a quote unquote limitation.
Yeah.
Well, because like, so sorry to cut you off, Cam, but like people think, like Danny was saying, just to jump off of that point, if I was in that situation, what would I do? His life or her life must suck so much. It's like, it might not. Maybe your life sucks more. Like we do this thing where we compare so much what it may be because of the presumption. Like even with social media and how we depict our lives. And I say depict because nobody's that happy all the time. We're not one way all the time. So to assume that a person with a disability's life is always just A, B, or C is missing the whole point of life in general. Like there's good days, there's bad days. There's this, what it is? Like, it's not that I don't wish I never had a disability or I wasn't born like this. It's just fucking annoying sometimes. So you got to deal with shit like that. Or when like you can't reach a pot and a pan in your kitchen, or when you drop something or you fall or fucking you miss the bus by 2 minutes. You're like, shit, now I'm stuck here. Like, whereas somebody else just jump in a car, you got to think about a million different ways to solve that problem.
Yeah. but everybody has their advantages and disadvantages in life, right? And I I for me, like people will ask me that all the time. They would ask me like, oh man, like how can you do what you do? Like, how are you, like how can you play drums? Like how are you so positive? And like as you say, like I'm not fucking positive all the time, like nobody is. I'm probably far less positive than most people probably think, but my issues, the disability was certainly a part, like probably back in my subconscious, but I was dealing with so much of my own personal, like social issues, like that anyone would deal with, like not good stuff. And that was more what I dealt with. The disability stuff was, again, always in the back of my mind, but I think in a weird way, that's what kind of allowed me to, probably without me knowing, but grow and learn how to play the drums, or like develop the philosophies that I adhere to, was because the disability wasn't the first thing on my mind all the time. Like certainly some people would make a point of it. They would put it in your face, right? They would look at you and they would say, oh, like, oh, it looks like you're dealing with this, or like, do you need help with this or whatever? Like you're dealing with that on a regular basis. But my issues were the same as other people that did not have disabilities, that were dealing with hard times. And again, because I didn't have to focus on the disability so much, I was focused on other stuff. I think it weirdly allowed me to grow in a strange way.
From a social standpoint, a lot of people are under this myth of immortality, especially when they're young. I mean, they don't seem to realize we're all one genetic factor away from a disability, or one texting and driving incident. I mean,
Yeah.
they get the idea that life must be so hard till they have to deal with it themselves and actually realize, hey, this isn't some insurmountable force of nature. It's just one aspect of who I am. Maybe it'll adapt my thinking, but it doesn't have to be all defining.
Yeah, you got to do what you got to do, right? Like at the end of the day, you can, we wake up in the morning and you see the light that's presented towards you, right? Like you can fight against it, like, the yin and the yang of things, right? Whatever your spiritual beliefs are, if you don't have any, whatever, like there's no denying that there's not a system in the world that is just like different degrees of one thing, right? Like that's everything. There's yin and yang and everything. And like, you can either choose to fight against what's occurring, or you can choose to like make the best of the situation. And oftentimes when you try to find that, eventually you'll find it, or it'll find you. It's a strange thing, but I feel that in my experience.
So. Yeah, like you can probably test that. Like, were there venues, actually this kind of relates to your music career, but were there venues that you went to, and were there instances where it made it more difficult for you to access the venue, or have like issues like that where you had to think outside the box as opposed to your other bandmates? Did you ever encounter that?
Oh man, like I mean, I had in every single band that I've ever been in, I've had some wonderful roadies / bandmates. So that's, never really been too much of an issue for me. I really appreciate that. It's one of those things maybe I don't think about enough, but it's a lot of people are very helpful. But sometimes I would like playing. Okay, here's the thing that's great is like if you're a lot of shows you'll play, right? Because they don't have a lot of time between taking the gear down and then putting it back up, right? Everybody likes to bring their own stuff. But as a drummer, it takes a lot of time to set up a drum set, right? Even if you're really good at it. So a lot of times you would have to play somebody else's stuff. You'd have to play like a setup that's there for everybody, or there might just not be enough time for me to set my stuff up. So oftentimes I would just be like, okay, whatever's up there, I'm just going to go play that if they let me do it, right? And there are some times, man, where like some people, the way their kit is set up, like I can barely play it. And like, I just got to do what I got to do. Like I remember there was one show there was one show that I played where I had to play on this huge monster kit. It was like super, super big. And I play on a small kit. And it was so big that the hi-hat, which is like the two cymbals that you clap together, whatever, was so far away because the guy that had the kit had fucking like just humongous Stretch Armstrong arms. You know, he had it set up all the way over here. I legitimately could not hit it at all. Like I couldn't hit it. And that was fucked. And luckily I had my hi-hat with me, my own. So I just squeezed it into the kit like as best I could, because it's a thing you have to hit all the time, right? So sometimes you just have to say like, okay, like how can I maintain the fundamental integrity of these songs, like, and maybe not be as fancy or whatever, but just make it work so that I can do it and that it makes sense. And I've had to do that so many times, man, or where the cymbals are too high and they can't be adjusted, and like you just got to do it, like that's it. I can't go up there and make a fucking fool of myself, right? I can't do it for myself. I can't do it for other people either. Like so no matter what, I got to just do it, right? So that's happened a lot of times for sure. Like setup. I don't set my gear up probably like most people do. My feet are fucking sideways, right? So I have to do it a certain way. Anyway, that's my answer to your question.
Well, that's the thing, though. I mean, no matter what venue you play, no matter what people you got around you, you're never going to have anything be 100% accessible or 100% geared to people with disabilities, because that's an impossibility. Everyone would define it differently.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, you gotta roll with the punches, man, and if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it, and don't embarrass yourself. You can do crazy things, man, if you put your mind to it. I used to play shows. Like there was a time when I was in like 5 or 6 bands, back when the Coach and Horses was around, and I would play shows where there would be 3 bands playing, and I would be the only drummer for the whole show, because I would be playing in Aaron's Wake. I would be playing in Veritas. I'd be playing in Harbinger, like all in one show. Like it's metal music too, right? But it's like the adrenaline and that's all. I mean, I didn't have a job, so like all I did is just go to practice. Like fucking sometimes I would go to 2 practices a day, like a lot of times, because it's all I did. And my motivations were a little bit different back then, but it's crazy. I did a lot of things back then that were pretty. I probably wouldn't even want to do now because they were so ridiculous, but like I did them back then.
I bet, dude, you must have gotten some dope ass groupies. Seriously, they must have been like.
Yeah. No, it's true. That's the thing. Definitely thing. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it all comes down to you got to do what you got to do. You're never gonna have the perfect situation ever, and it's not easy, but
admittedly, people are there to see a show, but they can't understand or accept the fact that sometimes it might be 5 minutes delayed because you need a modification.
Yeah,
That's just it's just ignorant right there. If people can't extend themselves that much.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, I was gonna say we live in an instantaneous culture, so if there's any type of rift or any type of delay, I think people notice it more now just because of the instant dopamine drip and gratification that is the internet, and that is every device that we use nowadays. So I think sometimes that bleeds over into real life. And you ever see people without their phone in real life? They just don't know what to do sometimes. They have cardiac arrest or just these panic attacks where I'm I just left my phone. I was like, fuck it. I guess I don't have my phone now. I'll go and get it later.
I got a great example of this, and it's kind of a personal beef. People at the gym on their phone. What are they doing there? They're just to be seen, just sitting there texting. It's the all thumbs workout, I'm telling you.
Yeah. It's there's the lack of focus, man. it doesn't make sense to go to the gym and be like talking on your phone, I guess. I don't know, whatever, but they're paying for it. They can do whatever they want, I guess.
As long as it doesn't set back somebody else's workout
Oh,
time.
yeah.
Last year, we've only had an hour, and you set back one guy by 5 minutes, he sets back the next guy, and
That's
it's a
true.
domino theory.
Yeah, no, I mean they're maybe they could institute some kind of policy where they're like fucking no phones. Well, maybe not. Maybe that's too infringing or whatever. But I mean, you're at
Don't
the
get me
gym. You might as well fucking work out. Like
Yeah.
and work out efficiently. Working out for hours and hours and hours sucks. Like, don't you want to get it done as fast as possible, right?
Don't get me wrong. I love my gym. I love working out there. Some great, great people. It's just, well, honestly, I'm of the opinion if you're in a place to do one thing, you do it.
Yeah.
I mean, especially for me, having my own disability. I mean, my exercises are a form of rehab, in fact, and it
Yeah.
doesn't hurt. They sort of chisel me, but leaving that aside,
Oh. I thought completely the opposite. I'll bet you're like David Hasselhoff under that neck there.
that's just sick, man.
No,
Yeah.
it's like in Ned Flanders in The Simpsons when he from the outside has his
Feels like I'm wearing nothing at all.
yeah, he's got his frumpy body. He takes it off. He's like a fucking like chiseled abs and everything, like fucking Billy Blanks in the Tylo videos.
Only nothing but a cape on, no pants, just a cape.
All right, either of you two loses pants, I'm leaving.
All right, well,
I haven't been wearing them this whole time. That's why I got the view from up here.
perfect. Remember, bro, Patreon. Put that on other
Dave,
cameras.
just to respond to that, I ever tell you what my favorite quote was?
What's that?
No, go ahead.
Go
I
to
think
jail, I'll strap myself in the electric chair. Just don't make me listen to this.
What?
I am in an electric chair, ironically, so that kind of works out. Just
Actually, my last trip to Florida, I was supposed to see one at an abandoned jail tourists can go through. Couldn't because of hurricane damage. Wanted to get a photo of me in the chair, post it to Facebook with the line, Mom always said it was going to end like this.
Oh man, those old those electric chairs, those old ones that squirt some water on your head or whatever. Not a good time.
imagine if they would have turned it on, you would have had a better haircut.
There you go. Yeah, you look like a Super Saiyan for about a fraction of a second or whatever before your brains are liquefied. So
My brain's as screwed up as I'm going to let it get.
there you go. All you need is some electricity in there. You can then you'll just get the full Super Saiyan experience.
That's
Well,
it.
I've had bulbs, radiation, and a scalpel. I think my brain has suffered enough.
Rock and roll. Rock and roll.
But yeah, I think we're gonna put a nice bow on this because this has been a really fun episode. We're gonna have you back on here again, Danny. You were really great for this interview. Do you have anything that you want to plug? Where can people find you? How can they get in contact with you? Do you still drum? What's the story?
Yeah, I'm always playing and practicing. Obviously, like shows right now are a little bit of an anomaly, I guess. But yeah, I guess if you want to check out some of my material, you can go to soundcloud.com/ I think it's The Awkward Drummer or Awkward Drummer. Here, let me just find that real quick. Fuck up my own URL here. One sec.
No problem.
SoundCloud.
How's that handle it?
Let's see if they took me down here. Okay, here we go. It's The Awkward Drummer. So the URL is soundcloud.com/ The Awkward Drummer. There's some dashes in there, but you can Google it and find it. And there's a fair bit of stuff on here, like different bands that I was in, like not the newest stuff. I mean, I could plug all that, but just if you just Google my name and drums, I suppose Google will service you. So yeah, and other than that, I don't know. just I don't know, just understand, like understanding and like and respect. I think like everybody's different, you know, and everybody should be allowed to be treated the same way, and like no matter what their situation. You know, I don't think that like that should be commanded in terms of like people don't have to people are going to see you as how you present yourself. You know, I think the main thing is that like when people see other people, they respect. You don't have to be exactly what people want you to be or how they want you to be towards you, but as long as as long as everybody respects each other, if we just use that as the general rule of thumb, I think we'll go a lot further as a society. And
I could not agree more, my friend. It's not even an unmeasurable thing. It's just you do that. We look at these things on such a grandiose scale. We can implement these little tidbits of wisdom and just this way of this mantra, this way of being in our own personal lives. So I could yeah commend you on that. And again, thank you again for coming on. Cam, where can people find you? How can they learn more about Cam Wells?
Well, you can always Google my show, HandyLink, HANDI-LINK, or go to cjam.ca to play previous episodes. In fact, in the near future, I'm hoping to have an article published by Disabilities Magazine. I'll provide more details on that, assuming they decide to go with it. But I would like to echo what our friend had to say about just the general baseline of respect. I always say on the show, inclusion is not an afterthought. It's not something we do because it's a separate thing, oh, we feel we must. Disability, it's not a hat. It's not something you take off at night when you're out of the public eye. It's a part of who you are, but it's not all that you are. I mean, I, for example, am a radio host, a brother, a son, an uncle, and a lot of things.
yeah,
Pretty good office hand, etc.
Yeah, amazing juggler as well. That's a great side gig. Definitely his left hand. The other hand's a little, little hand. Anyways, you can follow my stuff at Dave Squeaky Wheels on Instagram, DAVESQUEAKY, Wheels with the Z, all one word. Same with Facebook, D Squeaks. I have a fan page on there. I barely use Twitter, so don't even bother with that. And if you're watching this on my YouTube page, don't be lazy. Hit that like and subscribe button. Everything helps. I'm trying to help everybody get a platform here. We want this to be a jumping off point. It's a safe space and all that good stuff. So youtube.com/Dave Squeaky Wheels and help your boy out, help Cam out, and help Danny out. Give him a follow, and we'll do what we got to do to help each other out as the way it should be. Thank you so much again, you guys, for doing this. It was a really good episode. We had a lot of laughs. We learned some stuff about each other. It's the way it should be. And if you're out there, wrist it. Cam, you can do your little tagline as well. I haven't heard it in a while.
You mean my conclusion for the show?
Yeah. What you do on Handy Link.
All right. This is Cam Wells reminding you we're all equal. So get on out there and have yourselves a good one. Something tells me you've earned it, folks. We'll see you next week.
You've earned it, folks. Thank you so much, Danny. Thank you so much, Cam. I'm gonna stop right now. See you guys. Have a great one.